Welcome to Smarter Strategic Thinking, where technology, risk, and leadership meet. In this episode, we're joined by Keith Masco from Titan Data Solutions to unpack the realities of modern cybersecurity, from zero trust and cyber essentials to what senior management need to understand before the next breach happens. Let's get into the conversation.
I'm Ray Quattramini from Smarter Strategic Thinking. Today we have Keith Masco from Titan Data Solutions. Should we start with how you got in IT, Keith?
I started working for NCR, international banking, actually writing software for international banks on NCR mini computers.
Okay.
Which was a very interesting introduction to computing and a very different security picture from open systems that we have today.
Yeah.
It's a good background for everything after that. Yeah.
Could you explain what Titan Data Solutions do?
Titan Data Solutions is a distributor with offices in the UK and Sweden and Dubai. And Titan distributes all kinds of storage solutions, data management solutions, and services related to that. And I look after the cybersecurity services division, which is part of Titan Data Solutions.
What's your role, and how long have you been there doing it?
My title is Head of Cybersecurity Sales, and but I look after everything to do with this division, the sourcing of the services and products, product marketing, product supply, contracts, legal, and of course sales through the distribution system and the resellers of Titan.
For our viewers, what products and services can you provide via us to the viewers of this video?
We could start off probably by talking about the entry point kind of solutions and services. So if you're starting off, probably you might think about cyber essentials.
Yeah.
If you're, because more and more customers are demanding that as a condition to work with them. So the government-approved scheme, Cyber Essentials, which is a self-verified version and an audited version, and we supply a lot of that. We provide the consulting and help that people need to understand what their gaps are. A lot of customers need to do things in order to obtain Cyber Essentials before they can pass it. So we help with that.
We had to upgrade our firewall when we did it.
Yeah, it's quite common that things have to be upgraded and work has to be done just to achieve this basic Cyber Essential certification. But it's a very good basic set of controls. It doesn't mean you won't be hacked, of course, but it's putting basics in place and basic responsibility to the customers, I think, to have this level, which hopefully then you can get Cyber Essential certification to put on the website and everything else. So Cyber Essentials is a very important measure, I think, to put in place. Penetration testing is the other entry level type of service, and all companies need this, of course, because you need to understand how a hacker could see your network. Yeah. And they could be looking at it from outside in, they could be actually already in the network, and so you need to know how they can move around and what they can access if they're already in the network. So it's an internal penetration test. The Wi-Fi system could be a method exploited to attack you, so you need to test your Wi-Fi systems and all kinds of other things too, including people. The social engineering penetration test also very important, checking people, will they give out their passwords if you ask them the right way? And all the other things that go with it, phishing simulations and so on. So yes, penetration testing in its broadest sense, and especially external, internal penetration testing. These are crucial things that I think you have to be responsible. You need to have this done because you need to know how you're seen by an attacker. Is there a kind of a door which is wide open, or more subtly, are there a number of different weaknesses which taken together, could be exploited to attack your data or your customers or whatever, or your machines? So, yes, penetration testing, and that's different from vulnerability scanning. Vulnerability scanning is important as well, but vulnerability scanning is obviously just looking at the vulnerabilities that exist. It can be done with an automated scan. But penetration testing, I think, especially important to do it manually. In many cases, there are different use cases, but manual pen testing is very important, I think, because the attackers are human. Yeah. So you need to have a human creativity to fight with human creativity. We're still at that stage, I think, although there are automated pen tests also available and have their own advantages in certain cases. But normally the manual penetration test will be necessary at least once a year, I think, and sometimes we see more. And moving on from that probably then the third thing is a vulnerability. Let's say probably a cybersecurity posture review.
Right.
Cybersecurity posture review means really an assessment of the cybersecurity risks, the risks that you have, the risk level that you may accept as a small company is very different from the risk level that a large piece of critical national infrastructure would accept. So it looks at the risks that your risk appetite and plots really where you are against where you want to be in each of those dimensions. So it's not just about technical controls in the systems, and that's included, but it's not enough. It's about processes, it's about management controls, and all of that has to be taken together. Cybersecurity posture review will give that in a format, and this is very important, which can be understood not just by technical people, but also by the board or by the stakeholders, because this communication between the two is vital to survival, actually, to have this level of communication between the people who make budget decisions and the people who have to implement them. This is crucial. So cybersecurity posture review is, like, say, the third leg on this stool for starting off. There's the penetration testing, cyber essentials certification, and cybersecurity posture review. Following that, there's a whole load of other stuff which you can consider. Phishing simulation and setting up attacks using phishing emails, which are still the most common way of attacking companies through phishing emails. Getting people to, people always press on the links and then they get led off to training. There's phishing simulations, and in risk management processes, quite often companies now have to show that they've done this, that they've done phishing simulations across the company, and that because people are the weakest link usually, and they need, you can reduce your risk by increasing the resilience of the organisation, and this is a method to do it. So phishing simulations, I think, are an important thing to consider, and we supply those. We supply all the more advanced certification support with those, like ISO 27001, which is an information security certification, and that's a very important one, and more in demand. SOC 2 which is for companies in the UK who have customers in America, often now are asking for SOC 2, and we do that too. And there are different types of certifications specific to certain industries where we can provide help and support on those too.
You do NIST as well, don't you?
And we do NIST as well. So NIST is often used as a framework for a cybersecurity posture review, but we can also use the NCSC, National Cybersecurity Centre 10-step framework for a simpler approach, maybe enhanced a little bit by some of the consultants. But going forward, a longer project, a deeper project, could be a NIST-based cybersecurity posture review. And we do a gap analysis against the ISO 27001 framework as well. So there's many different solutions here. Main thing is to understand the customer problem and where the customer is, and how much time and money they have to deal with it, and the level to which the stakeholders are prepared to be invested in the process. And then we can work out how to approach that. And then really there's so much on the list. Is almost anything you can think of. We can provide cybersecurity consulting of any shape or size. Moving across to monitoring and log monitoring and threat detection. So managed SOC, we call it managed SOC, SOC, Security Operations Center, and more companies are getting to the point they realize they need this, or they've already got it and they need to review it, and so on. So the managed SOC is an important subject now, which is really collecting all the log entries and all the information of what's going on in the system into a central place, and then running a set of software tools and having people to analyze what's happening and to be on top of it,
patching,
be able to respond. So yes, if somebody gets into the network, it should create some noise, which is picked up by the SOC operators. They will prioritize, how serious is this, etc. They'll research it, and if it's something that needs attention, they'll respond to the customer very quickly, within minutes usually. So this is managed SOC is a very important tool that we have, and we can supply these services. I think with managed SOC, it's particularly important to think about your SOC processes distinct from the database software itself. So if you have the services and the software from one place, well, how much flexibility do you have in the future?
Yes.
Whereas if you have the services, the SOC services, for example, Microsoft Sentinel, consulting services around Microsoft Sentinel for managed SOC, or these kind of services on Sentinel, and then you have the freedom, to change the service provider or change the software or whatever you want to do. And I think this is an important thing to consider, at least in the equation. I think a lot of people do, but this is very important. So we provide the services usually as a set of services, which is separate from the underlying SIEM, SIEM software that collects all these logs together. We can also provide a solution which combines everything together, but it's quite common now to separate them, especially with Microsoft Sentinel, which is getting increasingly popular, of course, as the solution underlying all this. And cyber incident response is an important part of what we do too. So when companies get hacked or whatever, we can respond. And it's always a very emotional situation, and I don't like it in general. But it's very important understanding how to react and how to work with companies and technical people and managers who go through the horror of realizing they've been hacked. Mm-hmm. And everything that we do there is geared to try to do the right thing for them, but not to, it can be that many months later you get a lot of questions. Why did I have to buy this at this point? Why did we? So it's been very important to have a balanced approach and to be kind of experienced in dealing with those situations. So, as I said, it's the most dramatic part of my job. Probably it's not the most favourite part. No. And then, but what's more important is preparing for cyber incident breaches occurring. So cyber incidents exercising, as we call it, this is a very important. So we can do kind of desktop run-throughs,
simulations.
Yeah, the vendors will come in and do that. They're certified and qualified to do that, and they'll come in and do a run-through of what would happen. Checking the processes, not just technical things, but also communications, not just to the press, but also to the authorities, some legal obligations as to what has to be declared, etc., and helping with all of those things and making sure that you're prepared, because, the main thing is to be prepared if you are breached. Cyber incident response, therefore, I think is a very important thing to include in the budgets if you can, to run through what would happen if you're breached and make sure everything's taken care of there as much as you can. And that's on the services side. I've given you a quick run through there. On the solution side, I have a very strong belief that we need to move more and more towards a whitelisting approach to security. There's blacklisting and whitelisting in security. Blacklisting means if you turn up to my party, if you're not on the blacklist, I let you in.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas whitelisting is you have to be on the guest list to get in. And for some interesting reason, the weakest of those two methods has been used historically for IT security. And with the result you'd expect. Yeah. Open systems, the dream we all had of open systems and it's like opening the door to your house and letting somebody come in and run around the house and do whatever they want. It's no different really than letting users download whatever software they want and run it.
It's interesting you say that. I read an article the other day that this guy walked into this woman's house. He walked around the house, didn't touch or take anything, and walked out of the house. And the police didn't do anything. That's a fact.
Well, the fact is that many networks today operating all around the world have got exactly that happening. People are in there. People are in there, sitting, waiting for the right opportunity, waiting for the right month, the right year to execute an attack.
Results.
Yeah. So this, it's really important. I think that we move to zero trust is another approach. We could call it zero trust. Whitelisting is to move to a slightly back from the open systems, which came in the 80s really. Yes. we've kind of accepted it as normal.
Yeah.
Generations have grown up thinking that's normal computing. To let, to have a world where you have programs downloading onto your computer and running and you don't know what they are and you don't know where they came from even or what they're going to do. This has been a dream from the 80s, which is, I think, caused so much trouble. And the internet itself and the design of the internet,
Yes.
where with the way that DNS works, somebody sitting at home can go onto almost any website they want to without any strict control as to whether that's a malicious website. I mean, there's different tools, of course. There are different
Yes.
vendors helping to do that, but at the internet level, at the level of DNS lookups and ISPs, that's a question. It's a very liberal setup. And should it be? Or should it be more controlled to protect our young people in particular and companies too? So this whole area of zero trust, whitelisting, moving to a stricter approach, I think is very important. And we have Threat Locker. Threat Locker software is built from the ground up on whitelisting principles, on zero trust. It will only let programs run, processes run, which are authorized.
Right.
Everything else is default deny. It will block everything. It will block everything unless it's on the list that can run, the whitelisting as we described it.
Yes.
And that, I think, is a really crucial step. And we've signed up as a distributor for Threat Locker. We are Threat Locker distributor. We're very proud of that. And we are heavily involved in Threat Locker sales. Okay,
Yeah.
so I'll go more into it. But the key thing is whitelisting and making sure that processes, when they do come in, if they are on the whitelist, they are who they say they are, and that they are. They're controlled. Like if somebody's on your guest list and they come into your house, they come into your party, but then you notice they're up in your bedroom,
Yes.
I think you're going to have a word with them, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's the same here. So the processes which are allowed to run are still monitored carefully and still using this zero trust basis. They're only allowed to do what they're allowed to do and everything else is blocked.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's how Threat Locker managed to stop the SolarWinds attack for its customers. The SolarWinds was a supply chain attack, you remember probably. And this was blocked by Threat Locker because even though the software, which was an official upgrade, even though it was allowed to run as a result, but it was doing something which was not allowed, and it was blocked. And this is why is a very good example of Threat Locker, how it can prevent attacks that others can't. And so I'm a great advocate and believer of Threat Locker. It's a great company, by the way, and they're expanding and really, really good. So I think that's one to watch. And we're a distributor. Another is network traffic monitoring. So you've got your endpoint security, which is where Threat Locker comes in on the endpoints, and you've got your network traffic. And if you have IoT devices, for example, which a lot of people have, you know that these IoT devices, they can't run an antivirus program at the moment, right? Usually. So how do you protect your network if you've got IoT devices? Very famous examples where people have been hacked through fish tanks and all that kind of thing. How do you stop someone hacking in through your IoT device? So monitoring network traffic is a really important layer as well. And a lot of serious security people understand this, but a lot of small companies don't really fully understand or want to pay for it or understand it. So we need to bring this to smaller companies, mid-size and smaller companies as well, as network traffic monitoring. It's historically been a complicated and time-consuming activity to understand what the logs are telling you. But with Stamus networks, networks have a product called Clear, which is an NDR, Network Detection and Response product.
Okay.
Network Detection and Response. And this is using AI and is making everything much, much easier to understand and quicker to understand. So it's useful information, on time, accurate, and with context and help to what to do, and picking up threats in the network, which can help you not just on, as I say, standard computing, but also with IoT devices and other things attached.
Yeah.
And there's a number of other things. We have I talked about DNS security. We have a product called Whalebone, which is a protective DNS security product, and that is blocking malicious traffic by Whalebone have their own resolver. We call it a resolver.
Yeah.
When you type in your website into your browser, it's resolved to a DNS address, and this process happens on a resolver, and they have their own resolver, which can be implemented either on premises or in the cloud.
How different is the story of cybersecurity in the boardroom to the actual IT department, in your opinion?
Well, I see a lot of this. I see a lot of both. So, yes, and there's very different worlds, and the communication between these two different worlds is absolutely crucial to the company's well-being and survival, even. So the communication, sometimes, of course, you find that there is a good level of communication, but it's very commonly not the case. The thought process at the board, in terms of investment and risk, versus the operators on the networks who are working day to day, struggling with different alerts and different people wanting to do different things and people wanting to run different programs, which are obviously going to be a risk, and so on. And trying to manage the two together is a challenge, really. I think it's a huge challenge going forward. But there are certain things we can do to help here. Cybersecurity posture review is a very important tool. I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
So this looks at the risk profile of the company, the risk appetite. It looks at the score, if you like, against each dimension of that risk, and then encapsulates that into a report, which is not just not just readable for technical people, but can also be explained to the board or other stakeholders as to what are the risks we're running and what do we need to do about them, where to prioritize spending, which is the key question, because so many companies have so many suppliers trying to sell different products, all with a different advantage or a different thing that they may do to help you.
Yes.
But who's actually understanding the whole picture? And it's more about services and more about understanding and more about IT expertise. You can have all the products in the world, but if you don't have the right services available internally or externally, then you really are going to be in trouble.
Yeah.
So this is more and more coming to knowledge and expertise, and these reports, these cybersecurity posture reviews, are a key tool that can be used to bridge that gap in understanding.
In the last 24 months, we've had a proliferation of high-profile attacks, particularly around ransomware. How are organisations viewing their stance from a cybersecurity perspective about trying to alleviate ransomware?
Well, you see this, of course, all the time, and at the director level, the board levels, people are understanding that this is happening, are frightened about it. Obviously understand that it's a risk for them, and it's a risk for them as a company and also even personally, to be tarnished with that brush, that you've been responsible for that. So we see these very high profile attacks have created more acceptance of the need to invest in these kinds of services, but at the board level. At the same time, we also see huge financial constraints, and all the different risks the company faces have to be considered together. But nevertheless, I think the risks have made it easier for the people that understand IT security to explain the needs and the risks to the people who are controlling the budgets and so on. But we're a long way from where we need to be, and there's still a lot of people who just want to put ticks in boxes without really digging down as to what's the real security issue.
Exactly. Organisations are looking at, well, once upon a time it's not going to affect us. We've got this brand, we've got that brand, etc., etc. So they're now taking the stance of not, we won't get breached, to say, well, what happens if we do get breached? What are the implications of that, in your opinion, running a business, whether it's a small business or a large business, and what do you think they can do immediately to avoid this?
Absolutely. So this is also developed a lot over the last few years. Preparing for an incident, preparing for a cyber incident, it's really no different logically from doing a fire drill, right? If fire alarm going to go off at 11 o'clock in the morning, everybody has to assemble outside.
Whether it's raining or not.
Yeah. And if you don't do that, you'll be in serious trouble with health and safety when a fire occurs and someone burns, right? So it's the same with IT security. It's moving that direction now. You have to do your fire drill. I mean, you need to do a fire drill because you cannot assume you're not going to be breached.
Yeah. Nobody.
Look at the reports, the kinds of companies that have been breached. And smaller companies, IT security is about the cost of an attack versus the cost of defense. And if the cost of attack is reduced sufficiently and the rewards are high enough, then smaller companies get attacked as well, of course. Yes. So it's a balance. So we need to just remember that these attacks can happen on small companies as well. So they all have to prepare to some extent for when the worst happens. Yeah. And we have vendors who provide these services, cyber incident exercising, where they'll do a run through with the customer, a tabletop exercise, a breach has occurred, what happens now, what happens next, who's doing this now, and so on. And these practice runs are really important, not just for technical reasons, but also for communications and regulatory, notifications and that kind of thing, to understand responsibilities and roles and who's going to do what. Yeah. So.
Yeah, and also one of the things that strikes me is, let's say I've listed you as our cyber guy in the organisation, and you're on a 2-week holiday in Malaysia somewhere, and I can't get hold of you. These things happen, don't they?
Yes.
Where's Keith? We've been hacked.
Exactly. So and that's a very simple case, but if you haven't got any idea what's going to happen if you get hacked and what you're going to do, that's the worst case. And unfortunately, I meet people like that who've been hacked and are really at 6s and 7s. So preparation is everything. Yes. And just like the fire drill, you need to have your plans ready for if and when, a breach occurs.
Absolutely. Obviously, everything rolls around budget. And, where do you see that budget decision changing in terms of what's the simplest thing they can do to start trying to mitigate against a ransomware or a cyber attack? From a budget point of view, coming backwards, because obviously we've got a triangle, haven't we? We start here and then we go up to the peak at the top.
I think what I said earlier about zero trust is really key. Like I said, there's a lot of people selling a lot of things, claiming it will help you to avoid or will avoid a ransomware attack or the effects of a ransomware attack. But the really important thing is the whitelisting and zero trust approach to security, in my opinion. So
that's the number one thing you'd recommend.
I think a process should only be allowed to run if it's authorized to run, and everything else should be blocked. And that's the philosophy of Threat Locker.
Yeah.
And that's what we sell Threat Locker exactly for that reason. And once processes are running, then their behavior is controlled as well on a zero trust basis. So if they try to access your backups and they're not allowed to, they'll be blocked. For example.
Yes.
So I think this is the key, is to move to the mindset. No single product is going to protect you from ransomware. It's going to be about processes and management and discipline and controls, and the combination of solutions that you implement. But Threat Locker, I think, at the core of that, on endpoint security for controlling what's running on the endpoints, is really, well, let's say it deserves serious attention.
Yes.
For being the number one method, especially with AI moving forward, in terms of the hackers, the attackers using AI more and more.
Yes.
And how do you actually deal with that? You have to come to a point at the end of the day where you say, we don't let anything run unless we know what it is.
Yeah.
Because you could be fooled otherwise.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, between you're obviously a distributor, I'm obviously a reseller, and we've got a customer.
Yeah.
Where do you think, from a point of view of an enterprise, that they don't understand about their cybersecurity posturing?
I see. Yes. Well, it varies a lot. But I think the general point, if you could make it, really, is that the idea, the assumption that ticks are in boxes and therefore we're okay, is completely wrong. Ticks are in boxes. That's very important as a necessary step, but it's not sufficient. Even if it means you have processes running as well. Still, I think you have to be constantly monitoring that and constantly reevaluating It's a very fast changing landscape.
Yeah, it is, and it's getting quicker.
Yeah. So, are your processes and controls up to speed? Are they up to date with the current threat landscape, for example?
Yeah.
So, cybersecurity posture reviews need to be done at the external independent view rather than the internal view. It's important sometimes to get that external view.
Yes.
Cybersecurity posture reviews, and as I say again, and I keep repeating really, but the whitelisting approach, moving to zero trust, moving to whitelisting, I think is fundamental. It's a fundamental step, in moving to a safer world, to block everything that you don't know.
So, from your experience, are most of a cyber attack due to technical patching and issues, or is it more to do with human behaviour? What percentages do you think occur the most?
Well, there's certainly a lot due to misconfiguration. There's certainly a lot due to misconfiguration, and it's very hard to answer that question really scientifically, of course. But the impression I get is definitely there's misconfigurations are a key source of problem. But even if you look at the exploits in products and services, the exploits which could be run, and why are they in there? You get a software product, it's got a weakness, right? It's got a security weakness, and then somebody can hack in and exploit that and attack you. But that's not your fault that weakness was in the software.
Yes. It
may be your fault you didn't patch it when you were told to, but there will be a gap in between when the exploit is known and when the patch is available, and there will be many exploits which are not yet
discovered,
which were discovered by the wrong people, unfortunately, probably. So how you deal with these patches and exploits, this is going to be crucial, and I think whitelisting and zero trust is going to be the way to go forward on that.
We are, from our point of view, a lot of companies now offer cybersecurity insurance, but a lot of those plans, they're like, if you have an accident and it's 50-50, they don't pay out the full amount. They don't actually cover the time it takes to bring your business up and running. They might cover the cost of equipment, but they can't recover reputational damage. I know a lot of companies are looking at, even we just renewed our business company insurance, and one of the things that they're asking now is, do you need business company insurance, or would it be better off buying threat detection like Threat Locker or something like that? That's the thing you have to weigh up, isn't it? So in your opinion, you're paying for something. It's a bit like you're paying for something that you may need, whereas if you buy a hardware or software product, then you're covered straight away, aren't you? So there's a little bit of a half of one, sixth of another, isn't there?
Oh, this is a great subject, because it's all about prevention. In cybersecurity, we talk a lot about prevention, about testing, and about monitoring.
Yes.
So prevention, and that's again is a story about Threat Locker, because it's really putting the focus back on prevention. We talked a lot over the last few years about monitoring with managed SOC or these kinds of solutions, and but I think it's really important to get the focus back on prevention.
Yes.
Insurance is another step in that chain, right? So. Yeah. But in the fundamental, in the beginning, what are you doing to prevent these problems?
Yeah.
And if when you look at, are you implementing a whitelisting? Are you implementing a zero trust approach? Have you got a plan to? This is key. When the insurance policy is just another layer, you don't want to have to rely on it.
No, you don't want to call on the insurance policy.
You definitely don't want to, and definitely don't want to keep calling on them. So no, I do. I'm a strong believer, definitely myself, that first priority is to prevent these things happening. Threat Locker is a good example where you can take a new approach to do that with zero trust based security, and you can look at other things in that area too. Of course, insurance plays its role. It's going to be necessary, but it's not the place to start. The place to start is, and I do hear, sometimes a kind of slightly complacent attitude from some people that, we've got insurance in place.
Yes.
So but that's a danger. That's a red flag. That's a danger signal that the organisation is at risk, because if the leadership of the organisation think that having an insurance policy in place is enough, then they're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. If you were an IT leader tomorrow, fundamentally, what would you change and what would you rethink immediately in terms of regarding open systems, whitelists, backlists? What would you do?
If I was an IT leader?
Yeah.
You mean in a kind of a position to influence investments of hundreds of millions of pounds?
Yeah.
Well, I might need $1 billion. But if I had that much money, I think the,
Do you think with an Android phone or an Apple phone, apps are easy to come by, aren't they? And is that the sort of mentality that these younger people are bringing to their business? Like, I'll get that, it's free, or I'll get that because it's easy to download, or how do you change that mentality?
I'm thinking whether to tell you what I want to say.
Well, go ahead. People have got to learn about this stuff.
If I had that much money, Ray, then, when I started, every mini computer had its own operating system. Yeah. Every mini computer was, to that extent, secure.
Yes.
I'm not saying it couldn't be hacked, but it was very expensive and very difficult to hack a mini computer that was running a proprietary operating system. Then we have open systems. Yeah. And if you look at your iPhone or all the systems today, they're running a very limited number of operating systems, right, which we've had for a long time, in essence. And if I had that much money, to be honest with you, I think that the key to all of this is not at the application level or even at the user level. It was at the operating system level. Yeah. And probably there'll be a new generation which probably embodies the zero trust approach at an operating system level, which some are already starting to do. I mean, if you have an iPhone, one of the reasons it's so much more secure is because it'll only run the applications that have been tested for it. But it's not a complete solution, of course. But they can be hacked. But it's a step in the right direction, obviously, and you can see Apple in particular and some other vendors moving in this direction. But I think if you ask me the question, if I had hundreds of millions or billion even, what would I do with it? I'd probably it's not just a question of writing a secure operating system for the future. It's also a question of how you'd market it and implement it. Yeah. And get people onto it. That's a huge challenge. I mean, it's like unbreaking an egg, right? Yeah. How would you do that? Yeah. How would you unbreak that egg? Because all the time you've got an environment where you're using the internet in the way it's designed currently, and the operating systems the way that they are currently. I mean, you have to keep upgrading your operating system for a reason, right? Yeah. It's a reason why why it says I'm downloading updates tonight. Please wait. There's a reason for that.
Some more often than not.
Yeah.
And some of those updates actually break the computer, but
well, So I think that's, you asked me the question. That would be what I would love to do, is to sit back and say, how do we redo this? When going back, I worked originally on Unix. I was a C programmer originally. Okay. Yeah. On Unix operating systems and system level programmer. So that has my interest. And I think it's going to be necessary probably. I'm sure it's already in hand, and I'm sure it's already going to be announced at some point that there's some major conceptual update to the operating system infrastructure globally. But for the time being, that's what I would like to do. Yeah.
Talking about ransomware, ransomware encrypts data at source, and it's like a spider's web, isn't it? It goes from one computer to the next computer, or to your storage array, or whatever it happens to be. What are two things that a business can do to almost immediately alleviate that problem in terms of prevention of that happening?
to prevent ransomware from
proliferating.
Yeah. Well, there we go to managed SOC, of course. The initial steps of the attack could be picked up by the managed SOC. We test managed SOCs as well, right. So with our vendors. So we do find that they're not always perfect. But yeah, the managed SOC should pick up the threat, and the noise of that. It should register an alert, which is picked up, and then the idea of the managed SOC is that it should operate quickly enough to prevent proliferation, as you said, of the breach. But it's a tough one, and you're fighting, a real fight.
Yeah.
At that point,
it's constantly evolving as well, isn't it?
It's constantly evolving. So the managed SOC is monitoring. It's about monitoring, really.
Yeah.
Once you've been breached, the managed SOC should pick that up, hopefully, and will act quickly enough. And that's the key. It's no good getting a report 2 days later that you've got a breach on this server or something. It's just not good enough.
That's Bank Holiday Monday.
Yeah. So the managed SOC, when you buy a managed SOC, it's really crucial to be able to choose and select properly, do proper due diligence around that. Because, as I say, you have a managed SOC and then you might think, well, now we're safe. But, what's actually happening there? What are the processes? Is it working properly? It should be tested like everything else in security.
And I think that's part of the problem is the testing isn't, isn't happening fast enough. Like they might test it every 6 months, but, in the cybersecurity world, that's an eternity.
Time is a very important point in IT security. Concept of time. So breaches can happen so quickly now. They can happen very slowly. Yeah. Of course, somebody could be in your system for a year or more before they decide to do something. And this is very common, but also they can happen extremely quickly. And with AI now, the use of AI in attacks, it can happen in the blink of an eye, literally.
Yes.
So, and your human, who's at the desk gone to get a coffee, or dealing with a family emergency or whatever, while they're away, it's too late. It's already happened. So, and even if they were there, can they operate? Can they react quickly enough now going forward? It could be.
Well, it's a bit like your fire drill analogy, isn't it? I know they might do it biannually or whatever, but I think they should be doing it at least once a month. Just checking. Yeah, well, checking processes, checking everything. It should be real time checking, using software tools to analyze the logs, etc., and getting alerts, and that should be a constant process that's running. It's called a managed SOC, but. My point is that with the way that things are going, things can happen extremely quickly on a timescale that's not possible for the human brain to keep up with. Yeah,
that's the point. The systems, the chips, they're running at such a high speed. You cannot even keep up with them. No. You can't possibly conceive of how fast they're working. So, I think the only answer in the end is increasing use of AI in defense of these systems, and that's what you see now already increasing. But it's a very big step to let the AI make the decisions on what to do. This is SOAR, this orchestrated response. This is available as a technology. But would you let an AI decide to close down your network, or close down a part of it, or do something else? I mean, would you? Or would you want to?
Well, if you've invested in the tools and you trust the vendor you're buying from, then you've got to go with what you've bought, because as you've quite rightly said, a human can't react fast enough.
Well, or thoroughly enough.
Or thoroughly enough.
Because, you get fatigue. We call it alert fatigue, because you get so many alerts during the course of a week or a month or whatever, or even a day, that the SOC analyst can be fatigued from it.
Yeah.
So the AI is going to come into this more and more, and probably it's inevitable. Despite your reluctance, it's probably inevitable that this is the Terminator, right?
Yeah,
this is the Terminator, but it's real. I mean, it's real. Unless AI is allowed to do some of these things, these companies may not exist to talk about it later. So, and certainly the cost, is another factor, because, history proves that people always choose the solution that is less cost, right? Yeah. Less cost to get the same result, to increase productivity and so on. As this is meaning probably AI is going to become more and more important in not just the support information for IT security, but also actually executing decisions. And that's a scary kind of future.
Yeah, absolutely. So, looking forward to the next 3 to 5 years, where do you see the biggest security threats coming from, and the technology they're going to use? I know you mentioned about AI, but what else is going to affect that?
Well, yeah, the obvious one is the use of AI. Obviously, so AI is already being used a lot in the hacking process, and we use it already to defend customers too. But the development of AI from a kind of narrow AI, as we call it now, to a general AI, where you wouldn't be able to tell probably the difference between the AI and a human, is projecting lessons learned from one area to completely different areas and applying those lessons learned there. When the AI reaches that level, it will pose such a serious threat. You could have all the hackers in the world times 1,000 working 24/7. It's going to. What does it actually mean? How can you understand the impact of AI on the attack scenario? And that would mean, of course, it has to be mirrored like all arms races. Like in the history of IT security is always like this. It's an arms race. So the use of AI in defense, and then to what extent do we allow it? Because the attacker has the advantage all the time. The attacker just has to find one needle in the haystack. The defender has to make sure there are no needles in the haystack that can be found. Who would you rather be? I'd rather be a defender, but nevertheless, my job is much harder.
Yes.
And it's the same with AI, because the AI, the attacker is not too worried what happens probably if the AI goes out of control on an attack, right? As long as he's not caught.
Yeah.
But the defender, what happens if the AI goes out of control in the defender's role? Yeah. What happens if the network is shut down and the company loses millions or hundreds of millions of pounds as a result of a failure by an AI? And how do you deal with that? So, if you ask for the next 3 to 5 years, I'm sure that the advantages to the human race of AI and the disadvantages in terms of attack will go together, and that's the kind of future that the next generation will have to deal with. I should suspect. If we get that far at all.
Well, Keith, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for attending.
Cheers.
Thank you very much. And we hope our viewers enjoyed that, and stay tuned for the next one.
Thank you very much. Cheers.